Do you know, it's a funny one because I guess that I started investing quite some time ago in property. Myself and my wife.
Little humble brag.
Not quite some time ago, but quite some time before Brickz With Tipz started. That's what I meant in it. So we actually started Brickz With Tipz just before the pandemic. But I guess the kind of stimulus to start was the fact that we found ourselves speaking to a lot of people around us, trying to tell them, look, like, this is how you buy property, this is how you do this is how you do that. And just like you say, and I'm sure you get it as well, it feels you get a lot more value when it's someone just like you. Do you know what I'm trying to say? We're normal people, we come across as well. When I first jumped on YouTube was where my wife and I kind of started, and I made a YouTube video. And once again, I had that feeling that, do you know what? What I've done for some it might sound like loads, for some it might sound like nothing, but I guess the core principle I've got here is that I want to add value to people. Like, the video is going to be packed with content that I think can genuinely help people on their journey.
Welcome back to another brand new episode of the Property by Kazy Podcast, the internet's favorite property podcast. Each and every week we have a special guest. This week I'm joined by Tayo from Brickz With Tipz.
My guy.
What's going on, my brother?
It's been a long time coming, man.
I know. The in-person, the COVID.
Is this the first physical meet?
This is our first physical meet. That's crazy, right?
It's nuts, isn't it?
I'm meeting with a BAFTA award winner, Mr. As Seen on TV.
Hold on, before we get into the rest of the podcast, a quick note from our sponsors, London Mortgage Solutions, our tried, tested and recommended property finance brokerage. Whether you're looking for bridging finance, buy-to-let mortgages or commercial mortgages, these guys have got it all covered and will give you great advice. They can also arrange both residential and life insurance. They've helped myself as well as many of my listeners already, so if you want to find out how they can help you, click the link in the description below.
Not Sky, not Freeview, terrestrial TV. It's not easy. So
it's not easy, but do you know what? I got to thank God for the blessings, innit? Do you know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, man, the TV thing is something that came out of nowhere. Started in the pandemic. I started Brickz With Tipz with my wife in the pandemic, and I guess one thing led to another, and ended up on TV. But I mean, we can talk through the journey.
We'll go. So obviously, Brickz With Tipz, I really like. Brickz With Tipz was one of, when I joined Instagram, same thing, like pandemic, was one of the first pages I followed. I think, looking a lot of the time, we want to look and take inspiration from people that we resonate with, people that we can familiar ourselves with. And that's something definitely I think a lot of people got out of your channel, your Instagram, because you speak like them, talk like them in a language that they understand. But what was the motivation for starting Brickz With Tipz?
Do you know, it's a funny one because I guess that I started investing quite some time ago in property. Myself and my wife.
Little humble brag.
Not quite some time ago, but quite some time before Brickz With Tipz started. That's what I meant in it. So we actually started Brickz With Tipz just before the pandemic. But I guess the kind of stimulus to start was the fact that we found ourselves speaking to a lot of people around us, trying to tell them, look, like, this is how you buy property, this is how you do this is how you do that. And just like you say, and I'm sure you get it as well, it feels you get a lot more value when it's someone just like you. Do you know what I'm trying to say? We're normal people, we come across as normal people. I don't know about you, but when I was learning about property, it was always from some old guy whose family's invested in property for generations. Like, these guys wouldn't even talk about a mortgage. They're financing their whole deal, cash, no finance. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I did think, because I've been in property for ages. Yeah. And even though I was in property, I wasn't in property networking or in property circles. And one of the reasons was I felt a disconnect that, sometimes it could almost be like, it's great to be in rooms where people are doing massive things. Yeah. But if you feel like people aren't having conversations that you can relate to or understand, and a lot of the time, sometimes, to be very real, like, property can also almost become a pissing contest. If I did this, I did that, as opposed to, okay, but on a ground level, before you got there, like, what were the steps? Yeah. And I think that's something that you do really well, because despite the fact that you mentioned you invested in property beforehand, you still speak about current issues that were going to affect the people that are planning to get on the property ladder in the next, it might be in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
People that are planning to do it in the next 12 months, or people that are just about to do it, and things that they should really consider.
Absolutely, and it's quite funny because my wife and I end up making a lot of content about stuff that doesn't concern us whatsoever. Basically what you're saying, do you get what I'm trying to say? We talk about schemes a lot, never use the scheme. We talk about interest rates that won't concern us because we're fixed for X amount of time, isn't it? But I guess it's just about that kind of remembering where you came from for us. And I guess that everybody's content is a little bit different. And one thing that we realized as well is that in the space that we operate in, there's something for everyone. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, we will share a lot of the same followers, but they will get such different content from both of our pages. And they can learn so much just from going across the two. And it's so crazy how social media today can offer people that. And I guess that's just what we strive for, that people can get this education and people can be inspired as well.
I think the thing that I like about like your page, talk about people that I like Maurice, Alfred, loads of like so many like Tej, but it's the fact that normalizing the conversation around property without it being pretentious to the point that it becomes an exclusive club. And I think I try and do it. I know you do it really well. Loads of other people do it really well. But effectively normalizing that conversation around investment, around ownership. And when I say that I want to make property investment more accessible, I think that's something that you do as well. And I'm not saying that I have the keys to get you through the door, but I can give you the information so you can learn where to go and get the keys and how to prepare yourself to embark on that journey. Yeah,
and one thing you do as well, you make people comfortable with it. Because that's one thing, that's one of the stumbling blocks for a lot of people getting into property. It's intimidating. It doesn't feel intimidating for us anymore, but we remember that it is intimidating, and you put out that content. And I guess it's just that balance between inspiring and educating at the same time, right?
Yeah. No, that's it. Like, you know, all these conversations that we have, and one of the reasons why I do this podcast is because we're still learning, still on our own journeys, but it gives people an opportunity to get that insight into what different people are doing. So we speak to you that's, you know, giving out those gems and those hints and tips about how to prepare yourself to get into property and what the actual buying experience can be like. We then got people that are architects that have to qualify over a 7-year period, that have done, you know, tens and maybe hundreds of millions worth of development planning projects. We've got people like Adewale that's, you know, delivered, what is it, $500 million of projects. And then you've got people that haven't bought yet and are going through the process. So they're so fresh in it that they're even understanding stuff that's changed slightly since I did it. So the information is, I'm learning from them. And I think that's the great thing about the exchange of information that you get through a podcast.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I always say to people, I mean, I got a group and I always say, listen, someone who completed yesterday, they're arguably more knowledgeable than everybody. They completed yesterday. Do you get what I'm trying to say? My last completion was however long. So if you're fresh, you're a first time buyer, but you can still teach, if that makes sense. So everybody can teach, everybody can learn. And I think that in this space that we're operating in, it's really, really good because we've got people that can do that. And I guess because a lot of us started our social media pages around the same time. I mean, by the sounds of it, I started around the same time.
Yeah, literally, I think like around lockdown. And it was weird that, what you started, you said, because people were always asking you questions because you'd kind of maybe been speaking about it. Yeah. I think I was weird. I'd been doing it for so long that people just had no idea what I did. But I didn't know what I did meant stuff to anybody else.
Hold on one sec. So how did people think you were making a living?
Bro, do you know what's like? I can't say her name. I love you. She's like my sister. But like, her mum was convinced that I was up to no good. But I kind of get it because you see me in a tracksuit every day. You see me at crazy times. I'm just available. Oh, can you help with this? I'm just around. And they were convinced. And I was like, Auntie? Like, no. And they're like, yeah, I'm a property developer. Oh, yeah, they all are. And it was sort of one of those conversations where I said, you know what? Lockdown happened. And I said, let me put it out there. And then Clubhouse, and it was weird, even though I was putting stuff out there, when I joined, like, you know, Instagram and started to put out there what I did, and I was seeing, you know, what everybody else was saying they did. And that whole concept of, you know, Clubhouse in particular was very much like old school property meets. It was just
to a certain extent, yeah.
I do this, well, I do that. Yeah. I've done this many, I've done, and it was, and everybody had their numbers, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just rubbish, man. I don't even have anything.
How could you be saying you're
no,
rubbish?
but what I'm saying is that because I just did it. Like, I didn't do property to be like, let me go and make all the money. It was just like I genuinely enjoyed it, and I'm doing it, and I'm growing, and because I've got really big aspirations and dreams, I'm never looking at myself like I'm that guy.
Yes.
I'm looking at myself like I'm so far away from like, I'm
exactly
so far away from what I want to achieve.
It's funny because there's some people that just see everybody underneath them, but there's just some people that can just see everybody above them. Some people see a balance of both, isn't it? And I think that it takes a certain level of humility to just be aware that, do you know what? For what I do, for some, it might be loads. For some, it might be nothing. But I'm just comfortable in what I'm doing. Do you
and that's it. And it's a good skill to be able to do both, because sometimes I'm like you saw me this morning, right? Yeah. I'm in the car sitting outside. I've got my broker on the phone. I've got my admin in a Zoom meeting.
5 minutes before the podcast starts, by the way.
Listen, so it's like, and I'm rushing, but sometimes it is, you do have to stop and smell the roses. And I use the analogy, I remember like walking up doing like Runyon in LA, and walking up that massive, like the massive canyon or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just walking, you're taking steps, and it's a bit tiring, you're taking steps. But when you're standing there and you're looking up, you're thinking, I've got so far to go.
Yeah.
But when you turn around and you look back and everything is a dot, you're like, I've come that far.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's what everybody's journey is like. So sometimes you do have to look back just to embrace how far you've come, but also use that as the impetus to know that if I've made it that far, there's nothing stopping me from going wherever I want to get to. Yeah. But to take it back to the clubhouse, I was there and I see people saying like, you know, pipeline developments, like 1 million GDV, like property under management, X amount. I've got this many like units. And I was thinking like, but then it was only when I was like, all right, let me just play around and do mine. And I was like, I've done that. I've done that. And I was like, and then it was only then I realized, people like, and then people when I actually started speaking, and people were like, can you do something? Yeah. That people were like, you kind of done some stuff.
It's a weird one though, because not everyone will know. I always give the example that when I first jumped on YouTube was where my wife and I kind of started, and I made a YouTube video. And once again, I had that feeling that, do you know what I've done for some it might sound like loads, for some it might sound like nothing, but I guess the core principle I've got here is that I want to add value to people. Like the video is going to be packed with content I think can genuinely help people on their journey. And it's weird, I just thought, you did what you did, measure it out. What are people saying? Yeah. Let's put the video out. And I bro, I have to say I was nervous. I'm a confident person, but I was nervous when I put out my first video. Because it's crazy.
It's of yourself.
Yeah.
And you know the internet can be wicked.
Bro. And I grew up on Twitter.
Do you know what? I'm only getting used to the internet, and sometimes I pick up my phone and I say, do you know what?
Yeah.
It's just the internet. It's just the internet being the internet. Yeah. But yeah, I wasn't really on the internet, so I was new to it. I was so green that the first time someone was mean to me, I was like, why are you saying that?
You don't know what's there. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, they could be so wild on there. But yeah, man, your Instagram went crazy. I remember seeing a few of your flips early on, sharing them.
And that's it. But that's really when people say, it's just about sharing the journey, because there's going to be people that have gone way further, people that are inspired by it. But at every stage, hopefully somebody's going to take something. And even from the feedback, I'm going to take stuff. So sometimes, like my most recent little flip that I did, so it was a auction project, like 1-bedroom flat, just straightforward refurb. But certain things, like because of the community now, when we did the breakfast bar, we did it one way round, and I was like, I don't know about this. So I just did a poll, should I turn it round? Instagram said, yo, what the hell are you doing? That looks crazy. So I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to take the general consensus, because these are all people that are interested in property. We turned it round. When we had a colour scheme, I was like, okay, you know what? Pick the colour for the wall. Which one do you like? I probably would have gone for the other one, but they went for that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with the majority. Same thing for the feature wall. I was like, is it just a bit extra? It's only, but it ended up coming out really nice. So the ability not only to share stuff, but to take inspiration from others, I think it is good. And, you know, I mean, the numbers worked out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always nice to get your audience engaged, because they want to learn as much as possible. But when you get them engaged as well and make them a part of the process, a part of the journey, it just adds so much value. And I guess that's what we're here to do, man.
That is. So talking of value, let's get you in the classroom now. Let's get your teacher mode on. Do you know what I mean?
Let's do it.
So recent changes. there's been some recent changes in regards to interest rates. They're potentially looking to rise. You know, you've seen, I don't know, predicted rates go as high as sort of 2.5% potentially by the end of the year. Yeah. What advice would you have for people, you know, with their current mortgages?
So if you're in a fix right now, it's not going to impact you because you're fixed until whenever. So you could just cool off, I guess. But I guess one thing you have to consider is that interest rates have gone up, and the trend is that they're going to go up even further, right? So by the time you've come out your fix, you may find that the interest rates are a lot higher than you are used to. And if you've been a homeowner for a while, enjoying these really, really low interest rates, it might come as a shock to you. What you can do is make overpayments in the process. So just make overpayments while you still got some loose change, because it is going to be more expensive when you come out of your fix. If you make overpayments, it's just going to make sure that your equity is a bit more basically by the time you come out of that deal, and then you'll probably get a better rate compared to what's out there. One thing to remember though is that interest rates are a lot lower now than they used to be.
Because if you were like a landlord in sort of 2000 and what is it, like 2004,
just after the financial crisis, innit, or just before?
Yeah, the build up to then, you were looking at rates of, I think you had like double digit rates basically.
Yeah, basically like 12s, 13s and stuff like that.
If you've ever read that, and for example, somebody says, interest rates now, you've got a rate at 3%, for example. And someone says, you've got a rate at 10%. Because it's just a number, it doesn't mean that much to you. But if you go down to the bottom of your mortgage offer where it says, if rates rise, you'll be liable. And for example, it says, you know, if you're currently paying £500, if rates rise from the current rate to like 10%, that £500 becomes £1,800.
Yeah, madness.
But
people still read that and don't take any notice of it because, and I understand why, you need to take heed of it, but people in this day and age, you just won't be able to imagine a 10% interest rate. You're thinking, it's not going to happen. You never know.
And it's that, and it's also because in most instances, the difficulty to get onto the property ladder as a whole means that once you're finally there, a lot of people are like, just sign me up, sign me up. But I do think you have to make, because you're making, in a lot of cases, the biggest financial decision of your life.
Absolutely.
So that commitment is a serious commitment. You sign something that says if you don't make payment, your homes will be repossessed. You could lose money if you've signed a personal guarantee, if it's in a, if it's a business name. So there is a lot to consider. So I definitely do think, like, always make sure you fully understand. You do stuff that you've spoken about when it comes to your personal budgeting. Make sure that you have like a sink fund, a what if fund.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why I like, if people ask me, I'm into property, and that's the question I get asked the most, I want to get into it. More often than not, I'll be like, you just started out, go and follow Brickz With Tipz. Like, they're going to give you loads of beginner steps to just where you can take little nuggets from.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always good to speak to your lender as well. I mean, I spoke about making overpayments. A lot of people don't know that if you make overpayments, sometimes your lender will let you take payment holidays off the back of it. So we're talking about a lot of cost of living crisis things. And let's just say that we coming closer to the end of the year where they're expecting energy bills to go up again. Let's say your energy bills...
That's crazy, by the way. Did you see the one I posted recently?
Yeah.
My bill went up from
I saw that,
£206 a month to like £507. I just looked at it, I said, and do you know, I went, and do you know why I'm, because if you were one of the people who locked in your prices early on, like you would have a delay for all these. Every one of mine was on a variable rate. So all of them, the second Russia said, yo, no oil, they said, yo,
it's gone crazy.
Yo, run my bread.
That's insane. $5 a month.
Crazy.
And did you try to phone them? You probably couldn't even do that.
Yeah, they said you're on your best package.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? It's nuts right now.
It is, and that is one of the reasons why I think a lot of the stuff you speak about in terms of just general good financial advice, and E-Man from the E-Man Effect, like same thing, general good financial advice of, not just living paycheck to paycheck and having savings and making sure you do save, because life is ever changing. Even if it's not the big crisis we're having now, you could have a boiler breakdown. You could unfortunately have an issue with your head gasket. Unforeseen expenses that could throw you completely out of whack if you don't have good money management skills. Absolutely.
It's all about building your wealth and protecting it as well. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So you just got to have those things in place. And I think that one thing that my wife and I, Antoinette, are trying to do now is see where we can take it that step further. We've got the social media presence where we kind of show people how you can get on the property ladder, how you can build wealth from that. But our thing is that this needs to be taught earlier. Do you get what I'm trying to say? jumped on kind of property while we were still young, but I think that people could do it even younger. You could have an element of having that information younger. So we've been working with like potentially schools, we're working with PRU. Back in the days, we used to call them centre. Yeah. So kind of show these people that, look, there's other stuff you can do. Yeah. And a lot of people in the PRUs, they've got, it's funny, like they might put them in the PRU because they're labelled as bad kids, right? But the truth is that some of these guys have got traits of an entrepreneur. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And property would be perfect for them. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's what we're trying to do and implement that there.
It's definitely not, if you're working with the Pros, if you can inspire anybody or change somebody's way of thinking, or show them that there is something else that can be done, and I think, or a different way to make money. We do some of the same stuff. So we sponsor like this football team, shout out Most Wanted FC.
I see that.
I mean, unfortunately, lost the semis over the weekend in a cup, won every game, didn't concede a goal, and then lost the semis on penalties. So crazy, but well done, boys. Anyway, I saw that you're shining. But we sponsor them because we want to be able to have conversations with these kids, so young boys, young girls, both doing really well, that you've got the potential to make an exponential amount of income as a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And if you do, we want to give you the tools and the skill set to know how to manage that money. Because it's a really short time span to make crazy amounts of money, and you want to be able to protect your wealth for the long term. But also, if you're unfortunate enough not to make it, that there are other ways you can do things, and a lot of the same attributes that you have as a footballer in terms of like attention, in terms of training hard, working hard, diligence, that could make you successful in another vocation. Absolutely. And that's why I think just having these conversations earlier on doesn't necessarily mean everybody's going to buy a property, because the reality is property prices, particularly in London, are super expensive. But, I've seen a lot of stuff that you talk about in terms of early preparation for buying a house, because a lot of the time it's about laying the groundworks. Absolutely. So like credit scores. Tell me 3 of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to their credit.
Ooh, put me on the spot. So what I'd say
listen, I've been following you, that's right. I learned it from you.
3 of the biggest, the most mistakes people make.
Mistakes, like that.
I would say that when they're about to apply for a mortgage, a lot of people do stuff on their credit card, so on their credit report. So one thing that is a mistake that I make, and it's nice because it's nice when you can teach people of a mistake that you made, because you know that it's something that can happen to someone. So a lot of people want to kind of like tidy up their credit, and they might do it just before they apply for a mortgage. And once I cancelled one of my credit cards.
It's probably your longest standing.
I can't remember whether it's the longest standard or it was the one with the highest limit, basically. So my utilization went to nothing, basically. I mean, it went all the way up. So credit score went down, and I wanted to apply for a mortgage at that point. Luckily, it still went through, but I saw my credit score drop drastically. So that was really early doors. I say another one is your typical, probably the other end of that is, it's probably the biggest one. People take out a car, take out a new credit card just before they apply for a mortgage.
There's also affordability, particularly of a car. If you agree to make payments for the next 4 years, that takes away from how much you can borrow. So even with them, even though they don't do the strict like ×4, ×5 percentages, it's all about affordability now.
Absolutely.
So if you've got a loan, you might be on 70k, but if you've got a car, a loan, credit card debt, somebody that's on 40k might actually be able to borrow more than you.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's weird. A lot of people don't know that the credit card is often treated with not as strictly as the loan and the car, because the loan and the car is a hard 500 a month. Whereas the credit card, they take the minimum payment. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But it's all about being smart with your credit anyway. So you don't want to be running that up anyways.
Literally everything. Like credit can be so key. Like overutilization of credit cards can be the difference between, somebody saying, look, they are financially savvy, they manage their money well, versus they kind of live to the max. And I kind of tell people with credit, just think about it as your friend wants to borrow money from you. If they're always the guy that's saying, nah, I can't do that till I get paid, or I can't, where is this extra money coming from?
Absolutely.
And if you're that same person in real life, you've got personal credit, it works the same way your actual credit score is. That's
a sick analogy. Same way if you borrow your friend 5k and then he says, I've got it for you in a month, 1 month comes, 5k back, and it's down to zero. Lenders are looking at that. Right, guy, this guy can repay. So, and
that's literally what credit is. Because some people don't even necessarily had a conversation yesterday. Shout out Poku and the Gen Z club that put that on. But a lot of people, it was for 18, 19, 20-year-olds and didn't really fully understand credit. And effectively, for those that maybe don't. Credit is your trust. So it's how people look at, how risky are you to lend money to? And if it's your friends, if every time you lent somebody £20, they told you, I'm going to pay you back in a week, they paid you back in that week or before, you're likely to, when they ask you for 100, be like, do you know what? This person's built a reputation with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess the third point is start working on your credit too late. That's one mistake a lot of people make. So they might want to buy a house at 27, and at that point they're like, let me start getting my credit in order. Whereas, just like you said, you was at the Gen Z club, perfect age. Once you turn 18 and you're liable for credit, that's the time to be aware of it. I remember when I was in university, they post those applications through the post of a credit card, and in uni people
overdraft,
they run it up in uni. It's crazy, and
I think if credit's not free money,
it's not free money. It's not free money, but I guess there's something about university in particular where people, I think because everybody's on different money, different loans, and someone's on a grant and they get like triple the amount that you get, and yours is a loan. Theirs is free and they get triple the amount. Yours is a loan and you're getting a third of what they're getting.
But I think
you're trying to...
That's where what you spoke about is, because if you've, maybe you didn't work before university, so you've never had over £1,000 in your account.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden you turn 18, you're at university, and people start throwing money at you, if you don't understand, haven't been spoken to about money management, what you supposed to, and that's why I think it's really important to have those conversations earlier on, because if you offer somebody a £1,500 overdraft, a £500 credit card, what's that other one, Kalana, all this stuff, it's very easy for it to spiral. And then all of a sudden you can get a phone bill. You didn't know that when you went to Ayia Napa, it's going to charge you £1.50 a minute. You come back with a £350 phone bill. You've got no emergency fund. Now you're saying, well, and a lot of people, like, they will have, because the CCJ stays on your credit score for 5 years.
This is it.
And you may want to buy, you may not be thinking about buying property now, but are you thinking about it in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
And that's why credit is so important.
Absolutely. People really need to think forward. And I guess it's all about inspiring people and showing them that, there is something ahead to think about. Because you can't plan if you don't know what you're planning for. But the work that you're doing, the work that we're doing, it's just making people aware that, I might need this at some point. So let me make better decisions today, which is effectively what we want.
Brand new series with myself, Kaz from Property by Kazy, bringing together some of the best developers and development projects across the UK.
This is probably my favourite flat because of the challenges.
This property was purchased for approximately $980,000.
So we're now in the hallway of flat number 9.
We should be generating £4,250 per calendar month.
Yeah, we did a full rewire, full replumb, the boiler's over your shoulder, all the copper was gone.
You've got the flip deals, BRRR, ground up construction, new build houses, conversions, office to residential, you name it, we're gonna go and see it. So if you wanna see some of the best developments in the UK, subscribe right now.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, all of that. So with your journey and starting out, what was it about property that first made you say, that's what I want to do? I want to actually start investing or buy a property. Was it a residential that you bought first?
Yeah, it was a residential that I bought first. I think it was from university, right? In university, I used to kind of, in uni, like, I don't know, I had me and my friends, we used to like to stack our money, do you know what I'm trying to say? But sometimes when I used to save up, I used to dip into it. So I used to buy cars just so that money's frozen. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So had a Fiesta and then sold it, added a bit of money on top, bought Astra, and then kind of kept on moving from car to car like that. But the only thing is with cars, you lose money on it, right?
Yeah.
So when I came out of university, I was like, listen, I need to do that same thing, crystallizing my money, right? And that's the only thing it was about at the time, just crystallizing it. But I said, I want to crystallize my money, but I need to do something smart with it, right? So I thought to myself, property. And I always say to people, I think I always tell people, I'm not special, Antoinette's not special, we're not doing anything crazy. I wasn't earning crazy money at the time, right? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Working full time, do you know what I'm trying to say? But not earning a crazy amount of money. But the one thing that I did was that I said, where can my money take me? So a lot of people know the first property that I bought was in Kent. But I was already thinking, how am I going to make money off that? So I lived in one room and rented out the 2 other rooms basically. And I did that intentionally. I knew I was going to do that before I moved in. So from the day I moved in, I think I got tenants maybe about 2 weeks after. My mortgage is being paid for, and then some. You know what I'm trying to say, and it's weird because following the journey, there's no school for property, right? And I wasn't, even though there were courses out there at the time, I wasn't privy to courses. If that kind of makes sense, I didn't even know that courses were in full existence like that, basically at the time, right? So I kind of,
it's not until you dive into the world,
into
then
the
everything
world
on
of
your
property,
timeline starts to be property.
It's so funny if I skip forward a little bit. I felt like I kind of only found out about property courses when I became a content creator.
Yeah.
That's the only time I saw that there was loads of these courses around. But if we go back anyway, everything I'm doing, I'm kind of learning from experience. But I guess that one upper hand I did get is that I used to move job a lot. And I was a mortgage broker at some point, basically. So there's something about proximity, right? Proximity, I've heard people speak about it in your podcast as well. Proximity is crazy because it gives you experience and you get some expertise from seeing things so close to you. But it also allows you to see how possible something is. So I saw every kind of applicant coming and buying houses, and house purchases were just happening so frequently that I'm like, do you know what? This is something achievable. It
normalizes the process of buying a house as opposed to something that's unobtainable.
Absolutely.
And I think something you said at the beginning of that, which is, I think you've got 2 types of people. People that will see something, like they'll see you buy a house, and naturally they'll say, oh, he did that because of X. Or they'll create why they can't do it. And then there's the other type of people that will look at you buying a house and say, how did you do that, and how can I maybe do that? Because as you touched on, that you weren't in a super high paid job.
Yeah.
You picked a location, you worked out what was affordable, and then worked within your budget to get on the ladder. And you didn't say, okay, I have to live here. Because I think there is a lot of entitlement sometimes that, you know, maybe I grew up in Brixton, so I want to live in Brixton. But if you don't have Brixton money, you know, like when you ask your mum, like, you want to go to McDonald's? Say, do you have McDonald's money?
This is it. Sometimes,
you know, there's a balance. That, okay, you know what? But I know where I want to get to.
Yeah.
But you don't always get to skip all the steps.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go through the process. And I'm sure if you asked yourself at that time, do you want to get on the property ladder? Yes. Do you want to own your own home? Yes. But there would have been, do you want to live in Kent? The answer probably wasn't yes.
Absolutely not.
Do you want to have 2 roommates? The answer wasn't yes.
Yeah.
But it was a means to an end, and that short-term sacrifice and getting on the ladder earlier is what means that you could then move and, like, you know, climb the ladder and get to where you are now, which I think is really good advice and a story more so for people that are maybe making excuses of why why ownership isn't realistic for them. Yeah,
and I think you touched on something that is so important, because there's so many people that do what you said, and it's not their fault. And when I say what you said, I mean you see someone do something and you make excuses as to A, why you can't do it, B, why they could do it and you can't, and C, why it's not a good idea. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I'm not saying that property is the best investment out there. There's so many out there, and it's all about educating yourself on everything. But there's so many people that the goal of property in their minds, it's not unattainable for them, but in their minds it's so unattainable that they just completely rubbish it. And they affect so many other people that could be using that to build wealth for themselves and their families. And
that's where the importance of, like, your circle and having like-minded people around you is important. And I think, you know, I always say, like, I work with loads of people that I've, like, known my whole life almost. Like, so when I talk about my broker, my architect, my solicitor, I've known them for ages. But then I was watching, whose podcast was I watching recently? I think it was Dean Forbes. And he was talking about, you know, there's a concept that we talk about, no new friends, no new friends. But if your old friends are not bringing stuff to your life and are not helping you elevate and are being negative, then potentially they're holding you back. And if new friends or newer people are engaging in activities that you want to engage to, are doing things that you want to aspire to, your circle is really going to help you. So you do have to, it is great to grow with the people that you came with, but it's also great to make sure that you surround yourself with people that are inspiring you.
Absolutely. And I guess, once again, to say it again, this is why the social media platforms are really, really good as well, because you're submerging yourself in that content. Quite early on, I get a lot of success stories from a lot of people that either start their first investment property or buy their first home, whatever it may be. A lot of them are women, by the way, which is worth noting. Huge amount of my followers or clients are women, effectively. And I always ask them sometimes, are people in your circle doing the same thing? Because I can tell from their drive, this isn't normal, basically. You're the anomaly, but people in your circle will be like that as well. So it's all about who you surround yourself with, people who've got like-minded goals as you, basically, and you can flourish from that alone.
That's it. I think, yeah, definitely circle and just what you're engaging with. Because if, like, say, like, we take it back to like, the social media, if your algorithms are nonsense, like there are people fighting, there's just nonsense, like that's what you're seeing. So when you open your app, that's your go-to.
Yeah.
Whereas you can reset that by, you know, just unfollowing all those people, put in "don't show me this," and then you see stuff that's maybe gonna inspire you, like Brickz With Tipz, as seen on the Great House Giveaway.
The Great House Giveaway.
Come on, I know this BAFTA award winning, not nominated, because I see that in some people's bios, nominated. But you're winning.
Nomination is still excellent, bro. But
no, everything is
They're
just levels.
There is.
No, but that's good. And I think the show. So what's the show like? What's going on with the show now? You're in the new season now, right?
Yeah.
You finished filming. You're currently filming.
Currently filming. So series 3 is on TV right now.
Nice.
So weekdays, whenever this comes out, it will still be on TV.
Yeah.
So weekdays at 4 p.m. But currently filming for series 4, which will be out around this time next year. So I'm even going to, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to tomorrow, but I'm going somewhere tomorrow.
Undisclosed location.
I'm going somewhere tomorrow. So I'm filming tomorrow, filming Friday. But yeah, it's been a lovely journey. Blessed to have the opportunity to be a television presenter. And what the show is about, how it works is what we do, we give 2 strangers a property. And we give them a budget and we give them 6 months to renovate a property. And after the 6 months, they try and sell it. If they sell it and they make a profit, they get to keep the profit. And it's really, really nice, right? Because
I'll be good at that, you know. Come on. You don't think we can speak to the young? I know this guy. He's never done it before.
But yeah, I'm sure that you would
excel,
to say the least. But the sick thing about it, which I'm sure that you'll love, is that a lot of people think that they can do it, and a lot of people can do it. But it focuses on people that have never done it before, but you might have some elements. You might be a plumber or something, so you're in close proximity. Or you might have no experience. You might be a dancer, but you think that you can do it. And it's really, really nice because it puts people in that boiling pot and you work out, if you did have that opportunity, can you actually renovate and make a profit effectively? And we find out on the show, right?
And I think that's it, because obviously for a lot of people, you know, that don't know anything, you get to learn from other people's mistakes, what did work, what didn't work, understand what adds value, what doesn't. And I think like the whole concept of the show for people that potentially, like for me, like I'm a property nerd right now. Yeah. So even like I'm joking saying, oh, I'd try it. But like, even for me, I feel like I learn a lot from watching it, because like styles change. Like, absolutely. And over time, people's demands, like the idea of before, say a 1-bedroom flat, the idea of having a flat without a bath in it would be crazy before. Whereas a lot of people now are just going for just a shower room, and you would only learn that and know that if you're staying engaged with current culture. Yeah. So I think it's a really good show. Make sure you check it out. Obviously, your details for people who don't know, we're going to put them in below. But for people that are listening, where can they find you? So
you can find me on Brickz With Tipz on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And also check out the Great House Giveaway, which is on all 4 if you want to do catch up, or channel 4 p.m. on weekdays. You know, we're going to make sure we put the link to everything below. Thank you for coming on. But before we let you go, because you know I do this to everyone, and this is the most common, this is me copping out sometimes, because I get asked this question all the time. So what I'm going to do, if you're watching this, and if my videographer is listening, he doesn't like extra edits, but if he's listening, what we're going to do is all of these answers to the question. Yeah. I'm a young person or somebody with very little experience in property, but I'm picking up the bug. I know that I want to get into it. What advice would you give them really early on in their career? I'd give 2 bits of advice. The first is find out what you want from property. And I think that it's really, I get that question a lot as well. And it's really, really difficult to give an answer if you don't know what people's goals are, because there's so many things in property that you can do, as we know, as this podcast actually shows, because you've got so many different people that come on here. So what is your goal? Is your goal to have crazy amounts of cash flow? Is it for you to have a retirement fund when you finally do retire? Is it to replace your salaried income? Because there's different property strategies for each one, basically, and you will mold that around your goals. So I think the most important thing is to find out, what do you want from property, basically? Some people might just want to beat inflation. They just might want to hold something that's going to appreciate so they can challenge inflation effectively. I guess the second thing is, and of course I'll say it, submerge yourself in content. I was going to thought you were going to say, watch The Great Housekeeper. No. Submerge yourself in content. Properties, pages like Brickz With Tipz, Property by Kazy's page, podcasts like this podcast. Submerge yourself, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Aye, I'm trying to say. I haven't got to do it. He's done it for me, because you know you're going to subscribe. You know you're going to hit those notifications. I've been Kaz from Property by Kazy.
Brickz With Tipz.
You know, we are the new double acts, the new duet. Obviously, make sure you do subscribe. Make sure notifications are on. Next week, we've got another exciting guest. We're going to have Sammy from Rehoboth Property. He's going to be talking about going from working at McDonald's to buying police stations, courthouses, converting them into shared accommodation, office space, and being a multi-million-pound property developer. It's not one you're going to miss. So turn on those notifications, and we'll catch you next week.
See ya.